A long time ago, there was a man in Rwanda called SEBWUGUGU. He lived peacefully with his wife on the central plateau. From there, they could see almost the entire country. On a clear day, they could enjoy the sight of Kanyarira and Muhanga. From these hills, they could clearly see Nyungwe Forest in the west as well as the volcanoes in the north. Akanyaru and Nyabarongo rivers meandered beautifully on the southern and northern part of the plateau, respectively. Food was abundant, as the area received plenty of rain. Life was like heaven on earth for the young couple, as they were soon blessed with a bouncing baby boy. When the child was barely 10 years old, a great famine hit the country. It did not rain for 3 consecutive years, and almost every plant dried up. Only a few aquatic plants grew in what used to be riverbeds. So SEBWUGUGU, his wife and their son decided to leave their village in search of food. They roamed the country until they saw a pumpkin plant that had survived the drought. When they approached it, they were delighted to see plenty of pumpkins. They decided to settle there. One morning, SEBWUGUGU asked his wife to bring him a machete. She obliged. He started sharpening it. His wife wondered what her husband wanted to do with the machete, since there was no bush. Everything else had dried up, except the pumpkin plant. Then he told his wife, "I am going to clear this area of unwanted weed, so that this plant may produce healthier pumpkins." The wife objected, reminding him that every other plant had dried up except that particular one, but the husband ignored her advice. He even shouted at her and asked her to shut up. The poor wife could only watch as her husband entered the thicket and accidentally cut the pumpkin stem, even before he could see any weed. 2 days later, the plant had started drying up. SEBWUGUGU never apologized, though he knew very well that it was due to him that the plant was drying up. For 1 month, they survived on the last pumpkins that the plant had produced before it was cut down. Thereafter, they had nothing to eat. One morning, the wife asked her son to escort her, and they left their house, never to come back. Towards the evening, she started wondering where they would spend the night. They decided to enter a nearby cave. In the morning, they noticed some grains dropping from a certain hole inside the cave, one grain after the other. The grains included sorghum, maize and millet. Beans and peas could also drop out from the hole at rare intervals. The wife picked them and prepared a meal which she enjoyed together with her son. Life went on well in the cave as food was plenty. Meanwhile, SEBWUGUGU was never at peace where he remained. 1 year had passed without seeing his wife and son. He felt very troubled and lonely. He said to himself, "I must find my lost wife. I will only settle when I see my family." The day that followed, he left his house and went looking for his family. He roamed the wilderness until he saw some smoke and followed where it was coming from. It wasn't long before he noticed that it was coming from a cave. He went towards the cave, entered it, and found his wife. His son was busy enjoying a meal that his mother had just prepared. He observed that they were quite healthy. He looked at his own emaciated body and started sobbing. His wife offered him some food. While he ate, they narrated to each other their experiences. He was happy to discover the source of the food and promised his wife that he would not disappoint her again. He decided to build huge granaries where he would store the produce. He made one for sorghum, one for millet, and other 2 for beans and peas respectively. Soon their granaries were full. They were happy because they had become the richest couple in the land. Soon word spread that there was a couple that could feed the whole population, and many people came to ask for food from SEBWUGUGU. He welcomed anybody who visited him and gave them enough food to last several months. He would even encourage visitors to come back for more food whenever there was need to do so. As the drought persisted, an increasing number of people started flocking towards SEBWUGUGU's rock in search of food. Then one day he told his wife, "This hole is too narrow. See, it can only let out 1 grain. Since we are receiving so many visitors, I am going to enlarge the hole to satisfy all of the visitors." The wife objected again, but before she could finish what she wanted to say, SEBWUGUGU was already busy enlarging the hole using his spear. Immediately the grain stopped dropping. He waited till the following day, but nothing came out of the hole. Many months passed before any grain dropped. Soon, all their huge granaries were empty and the couple spent many days without food once more. Eventually, the wife left their second home and started roaming the wilderness once again with her son. By that time, the famine had reached its climax as all the swamps in the country had become huge dusty fields. They wandered the wilderness for the whole day. In the evening, they saw a home on a hilltop and decided to go there to ask for food and accommodation. They found nobody in that home. Instead, they saw many human skulls that were scattered in the compound. She bravely held her son's hand and led him inside the house. She soon discovered that it was a king's palace. The king and other survivors had run away from a very fierce monster that used to harass him, since all his bodyguards had died of hunger. That monster occupied the palace after having driven out the king and his entourage. It would wake up very early in the morning to hunt for people, as it only fed on human flesh. It would then come back late in the evening. There was plenty of food in that palace. The woman prepared some and ate together with her son. After eating, they climbed to the ceiling and hid themselves there. As soon as it was dark, the monster came carrying a human corpse. The woman watched it from a tiny hole. The monster approached the door. It smelled a strange odor and suspected that there were human beings in the house. It screamed, "I can smell a human being here. May the human being come and help me put down this corpse that I am carrying." The woman heard and saw everything but kept quiet. When the beast had put the corpse down, it pounced on it ferociously, and within a few minutes, it pushed the head in the compound, using its paws. It came back inside and fell into a deep sleep. The woman soon noticed that the monster brought home a dead human body to the compound every evening. She had now become used to it. Every day she would wait for the monster to go so she could start milking the cows that the king had abandoned. The woman and her son enjoyed basking in the sun during the day, eating and drinking before climbing to the ceiling that had become their bedroom. One day, while they were sitting under a shady tree after a heavy meal, SEBWUGUGU emerged from behind and in a faint voice whispered, "How are you, my people?" He looked so pale that it was very difficult for his wife to recognize him. Hunger had done the worst that it could to the poor man. On recognizing her husband, the wife was horrified because she knew that he would betray her and their son, but she could not do anything. Nevertheless, she offered him some food and milk. They again narrated to each other their experience until it was dark. Together they climbed to the ceiling, and soon the monster came home. It ate the human corpse it had brought and said, "I can smell a human being. May he come down to chat with me, as I am feeling very lonely? I promise that I will reward him handsomely if he gives me company." The wife warned her husband, but he did not heed to her advice. Instead, he told her, "Look, I will climb down and kill the monster. Then we shall claim this palace, the entire kingdom, and everything that is found within its boundaries." This time, the wife did not insist because she hoped that the monster would eat him and end her misery. With his spear in hand, SEBWUGUGU climbed down to the monster's excitement. After the usual introduction, the monster proposed a dance, and as they were dancing, it thrust its sharp claws into the poor man's ribs while shouting, "Ah, it has been years since I ate a fresh human flesh." The monster started by draining the blood before eating SEBWUGUGU. When it had finished, it threw the head in the compound and then said, "Wherever there is a man, there must be a woman. Will the woman come down so that we can have a dance?" When the woman did not come, the monster decided to climb towards the ceiling. The woman, together with her son, clubbed it several times on the head until it dropped down dead. The following morning, she woke up very early and beat the royal drum to signal the beast's death. The king heard it and returned to the palace. He declared her a heroine and offered her many rewards. Soon he proposed to marry her and made her son the kingdom's prime minister. Thereafter, it started raining and the kingdom flourished once again.